Hey, welcome to Cull the Weak. I'm Brobner89.
I'm Shotgun.
And welcome to the first episode of our new daily sub-series here on Cull the Weak, Card Talk. Every day we're going to be looking at a new card or set of cards and sharing our thoughts. We're going to start this first week with the new house from the new set, Unfathomable. The cards we wanted to look at from Unfathomable today, it is a set of linked rarity cards. The first one, Drawn by the Depths. All of these, as you can see, we only have the Chinese translation, so we are working with what we have here. Drawn by the Depths is an action card. It has the effect Play. Look at the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. Discard 1. Put 1 on the bottom and put 1 on the top. So this is kind of like the effect that you see from the Xeno Alien out of Mass Mutation, but it does it for your opponent's deck instead. Looking at this card in isolation, there's definitely some uses to it. It's not super exciting by itself. If you kind of think it maybe wants a pip, what are your thoughts on this card in isolation here?
Looks like a version of Vandalize, the card from Shadow's last set in Mass Mutation. Whereas look at the top 3 cards of the deck and discard 1 and rearrange the other 2. The difference here is instead of rearranging the other 2 on the top, you put 1 on the bottom of the deck. So you're pretty certain they're not going to see it for a long time unless they are able to shuffle their deck. And so that can give you additional knowledge. And yeah, can you weigh that knowledge with the value of 1 amber, which Vandalize gave you, this card doesn't give you? It's a tough thing to weigh.
Yeah, and if you hit the right cards, you'll be really, really happy. If you hit their interdimensional graft, you'll be really happy to put it on the bottom of their deck so that they can't get it until hopefully you already have 2 keys. You know, there's some situations where that'll be really great to have, but I think the likelihood is that it's decent, but not game-changing necessarily. The next card we're looking at here is called Deep Dive. That has the effect Play. Discard the top card of your opponent's deck. If they have any creatures of that house in play, put them on the bottom of your opponent's deck. This is pretty neat. You know, discarding from the top of your opponent's deck can be pretty good if you hit the right card. And then you're also making your opponent less efficient by making them redraw those creatures that are in play. They're going to have to redraw and play them again. What do you think about this one, Deep Dive, Shaka?
It's pretty interesting. By itself, it could do some good things if you get a lucky hit. With Drawn by the Depths, you can manipulate what the top card on the top of their deck is so that you can get that partial board clear.
Yeah. The reason why these have that linked rarity is when they show up together, you are going to be pretty happy about being able to wipe that board or take care of the most troublesome house of your opponent's board. Assuming you get lucky. I mean, you still only get to look at 3 of the cards, so you could definitely see this being very effective against Saurian because the card reads, put them on the bottom of your opponent's deck. So that is not destroyed. So your Ludos and your Scudam's Imperial are not going to matter.
Yeah, so this is a unreliable bounce, let's say.
Yeah. All right, the last one in the series that we're looking at today is called Dark Discovery. This one does have a pip on it, and it reads, Play, name 2 cards. Discard the bottom 2 cards of your opponent's deck. If they are the named cards, purge Dark Discovery and forge a key at no cost. Shaka, what are your thoughts about Dark Discovery?
I think if it hits, it's pretty great. You discarded 2 cards from their deck and you forge a key at no cost. So if you're at the end of the game and the deck is pretty small, you might be able to activate this in isolation. Not sure what happens if there's just 1 card in the deck. You name 2 cards, you discard the bottom 2. Then were they the named cards if there was only 1? I think there's going to need a ruling on that.
Yeah, some clarification is in order.
Yeah, I think both cards you named need to be there. I don't see anything in here that mentions the order of the cards.
Right.
So that gives you some more flexibility.
It seems like most of the time this is going to be pretty tricky to pull off. If you're facing a Rad Penny deck, that could help you out.
And if their deck has multiples, maybe you're more likely to hit something.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, in isolation, this is probably not going to fire often. With the other two cards, if you are able to archive all three, then you don't have a guaranteed hit on Dark Discovery. You do have pretty good odds, though.
Yeah, if they have creatures on the board, you've got a pretty good chance at being able to manipulate it. Just to spell it out for people here, I think it's pretty obvious. But Drawn by the Depths, you put the appropriate card on the top of your opponent's deck. Then you discard it with Deep Dive, putting the creatures that are in play on the bottom of your opponent's deck. And then presumably you know what those are when you play Dark Discovery, and you're going to be able to forge that key for free. Now, you might run into difficulty there if you are putting on the bottom of your opponent's deck any number of creatures that is not 2, but presumably you would try to shoot for 2 if possible. I suppose if they only had 1 creature, you could still manipulate it with Drawn by the Depths to get that forge off. Like you said, you're definitely going to need some efficiency to get all of these into your hand at the same time. Some archiving is going to help you out there. But if you can, I mean, that's a free key. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think if this lines up, it's going to work pretty well. It's a nice finishing touch. It is three cards in your deck that are playing toward a certain combo. So they're not really doing other things. Like Deep Dive could get you in pretty unreliable creature destruction. Drawn by the Depths is like a worse version of Vandalize, as we discussed. And Dark Discovery by itself is an Amber Pip, and maybe you discard some good cards on the bottom. So getting it all to line up, I think, will be the challenge. But when it does, you're going to really put yourself ahead in the game.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be like Dark Discovery decks. Well, rather, the deck isn't built around the combo, but they're going to be decks where you can actually make this happen reliably, and then other decks where it's kind of a crapshoot.
That sounds right. Yeah, so definitely look for high efficiency decks with Dark Discovery in them. That's going to be your best bet, I'm thinking at this point. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty difficult to pull this off. My estimation right now is comparable to Triumph to actually fire this card.
Yeah.
Except it's taking 3 cards in your deck instead of 1.
Right. All right. Well, that is our first look at some of the cards from the new set from Unfathomable House, Drawn by the Depths, Deep Dive, Dark Discovery. I would like to pin here that whatever the original source might have been, we pulled all of these spoilers from Archon Arcana. That is your indispensable guide to all things Keyforge. So a huge shout out to Blinking Line and the team at Archon Arcana that keep this site running for the community. Big thank you to all of them. Thank you all so much for watching the very first episode of Card Talk. Come back tomorrow for another look at another unfathomable card.